Well, as we find ourselves still on the front door to World War III, it might appear, and the different conflicts going on that are catching our attention, with the many conflicts going on that either haven't caught our attention or have been forgotten. I ran across another article, just to throw it up here real quick. It's from Bloomberg. Climate science and Arctic broken as U.S. and Europe isolate Russia. Collaboration between Western and Russian scientists stopped after the invasion of Ukraine and is still nearly impossible, putting vital research in jeopardy. So, whatever you think about climate science and where the research might lead, the basic point that I'd like to note is the foolishness of American policy over the last several decades in responding to situations or setting up situations and then claiming to have to respond to them because of how we've handled our foreign policy. The degree to which we have not, in fact, sought to foster peace by dealing with other nations, as nation states with vested interest of their own, and have sought to simply impose America's way of doing things, which I think is right in many ways and works in many ways, but is subject, like every human institution, to corruption and the violation of the principles by people who don't share those principles and yet take over the institutions. The degree to which America has failed to communicate her principles to the world by living and following those principles, and has sought to force those principles on the world in the name of bringing peace and freedom, while perhaps being actually motivated by other reasons, depending on who is in charge at any given moment. I think we have a lot to be held to account for. And this article just reminds me of yet another way where we may not have been aware of the different things that are going on around the world, but that's part of the liberal ideal, as I understand it. You don't have to do what I do. I don't have to do what you do. If we have differences in how we do things, and we have created, hopefully, an environment in which we can discuss those differences, perhaps come to a resolution that reflects one approach or the other approach, or a totally different approach that we hadn't even thought about. But the point is that in a truly liberal, free environment, we should be able to agree to disagree and carry on. Yes, there are some principles that I'm not going to bend on, and there are some principles that you are not going to bend on. And there's probably a good majority, if not all of those principles, that overlap and are the same. But the degree to which, as America, we have sought to force on the rest of the world, particularly through military and economic means, our way of doing life, in the way that our way of doing life we may think is right, and we have allowed others to convince us that their goals are as noble as perhaps we want to think ours are in promoting those ways, but who have ends that actually undercut those ways, those right ways of living. We need to step back and think about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Are we in 2023 with 30 plus trillion dollars in debt, a forecasted $2 trillion a year budget deficit, which is mind boggling, um, involved directly or indirectly in at least two major conflicts now, but with bases all around the world, the largest by far military budget, uh, problems at home, and different issues that we need to take care of ourselves. um, where in the world do we see all of this going? What are we doing, in fact, to foster an environment in which peace is possible, in which people can conduct research, the results of which we may interpret differently than they do, but it adds to the collective knowledge base from which we as human beings are operating? I think we need to step back and reflect on what, in fact, has been lost over the last several decades as America has sought to enforce her will on the rest of the world. Maybe we have the best way of organizing society, but are we, in fact, going about sharing that with the rest of the world in the best way possible? Well, anyway, look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you very much for your time. Bye bye. Thank you very much for your time. I've got a couple other videos listed here if you'd like to take a look at those. And as I'd like to discuss issues related to politics, religion, society, and how in the world we're supposed to understand ourselves and life in the world. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bye bye.